Hi, Saina.
Hi. How are you?
Good to see you, Mohan, after ages. Hi, Saina. You too.
Hi, Rekha. Hello, sir.
Hi, Saina. How are you?
Good, sir.
So we have about 13,000 young people logged on.
13,000. Wow.
13,000. So we have about 8,500 on the platform, about 2.5K on the social media. There are 2,000 young people in 8 colleges in Rajkot who have joined and watching together. So this is the first time we are doing a national Shaping Young Minds program.
Wow.
Thanks to technology, we have managed to reach quite a few people.
Wow. See, they're all coming to meet, to listen to Signa. Saina. How is your work with Shanti, Saina?
Good. We are doing very, it's been a very active year for us. All of last year, I think we facilitated about 100 odd investments. And this year, already in the first half, we have crossed 100. And then over and above that, you of course know that we are expanding the platform. SaaS product is doing very well. We have about 400 customers there, about 5 or 6 unicorns also using us, and more getting added every day.
Yeah, you know, Rekha, you must ask Shanti Mohan and Saina to come and give a talk on how they're revolutionizing startup seed financing.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, they've done something unique.
So we had done one as part of our startup special interest group at AIMA, where we had actually brought in Shanti to talk about angel investing and, you know, if people wanted to explore that. But definitely for a founder-facing program as well would be.
So Mohan, Saina is part of our Young Leaders Council.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
An active member and also an office bearer, I think, special interest group.
Oh, excellent.
They have been doing a lot of work. I mean, I think this group has taken the YLC to a very different level.
See, you must always put your money on young people, Rekha.
That's why I started the group. I said, we need that. We are the oldies.
You got too many old people in AIMA.
So that's why this group, and I said, I will not interfere. Nobody will interfere. They'll set their own agenda. Otherwise, they'll run away because I think the older ones in the team will not let them function.
No, the reason is with the digital disruption and the digital revolution, the chasm between the earlier generation and this new generation has expanded dramatically.
Yeah, true.
Very dramatic.
Either you keep up or
it's difficult to keep up because I see it every single day. I'm quite up to date, but it's very difficult to keep up because the thinking is very different.
True. I agree.
See, a mobile first thinking is very different from thinking of the earlier generation. So, it is very tough. And if you happen to be in Delhi, it becomes even more tougher. If you're in Bangalore, it's easier. But you are in Delhi,
I have some of my young colleagues who are my mentors.
So very good. Yes, I like it. You must publish the list of mentors to Rekha Sethi.
Oh,
there are quite a few.
That will be very interesting.
I know.
We should actually see that. I mean, it actually encourages a reverse sort of thinking, right? Which is very important today.
If you look at my IT head, my social media head, I wouldn't have, understood half of what I'm doing now without them. So I keep telling them that, they are my mentors. I'm learning from them every single day. And that's why I think we've been able to get AIMA to go digital so quickly. Because, you have to keep your mind open and learn from the young ones.
Yeah.
Now we are completely digital. All our revenue streams are digital and doing very well. In fact, we don't want to go back to office.
Very soon, Rekha Sethi will be virtual. We'll not know the real persona from our digital avatar.
At this rate, Mohan, yes. If we don't travel again together, then yes, you'll see me only virtually.
Yeah, when I meet Rekha in flesh and blood, I got to make sure I got to, I got to make sure that it's not a real digital avatar, but a real human being.
Make sure you find a real human being.
You know,
believe
so
me.
you were saying, but even for us, I think, that things are changing so quickly. That day I was talking to a startup and he's explaining to me how he's building something in the metaverse. And I had no idea what he was saying. As he was talking to me, I had to quickly Google and read up, what is the metaverse that he was talking about. Very, very interesting things are happening. And, just keeping up, I think, is, a full-time job. Now we have to dedicate, I at least block out time on the calendar just for reading and keeping up with what is happening. Otherwise,
it's amazing. It's an amazing time to live in.
Yeah. So metaverse is exactly this, creating, your digital avatars and bringing that external reality or a manifested reality into physical interactions.
So we have 1 minute to go. I'm going to hand it over to Smita to take this forward. Have a great session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the third session of the Shaping Young Minds program. This session is with Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, Chairman, Manipal Global Education Services Private Limited and past President AIMA as the speaker, and Ms. Saina Dehunagra, CBO Let's Venture Features Editor, CNBC TV 18, co-author of Young Turks and YLC Co-Chair Tech Startup as the session chair. Please note that you can ask questions to the speakers by posting your questions on the Q&A box that you see on your screen. Before I hand over the session to Ms. Saina and request her to take it forward, I have the honor to say a few words about her. Ms. Saina Dehunagra is the Chief Brand Officer at Let's Venture, a startup investment platform. At Let's Venture, Saina is building the next generation of experiences, content, and community to help deliver the promise of Let's Venture to its customers, founders, and investors. She was formerly an anchor and features editor at CNBC TV 18, where she oversaw a variety of programming on technology, the new economy, policy impact, CSR, and of course, Young Turks, India's longest running and most incisive show on startups and entrepreneurship. She also co-authored a book, Young Turks, Inspiring Stories of Tech Entrepreneurs. With this few words, I hand over to Ms. Dehunagra with a request to introduce the speaker, Mr. Mohandas Pai, and also take the program forward.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And it is, I'm excited to be here and to reconnect with Mr. Pai and actually lead this conversation. Let me actually do a little bit of a formal introduction, and then I would like to make a personal one for Mr. Pai as well. So over the last 37 years, Mohandas Pai has served in the areas of finance, information technology, human resources, the venture and startup ecosystem, and of course, the social impact innovation space. Mr. Pai was a board member and the CFO at Infosys over 17 years. Amongst other things, he was responsible for enabling a listing of Infosys in the US, the first of its kind at that point of time. He has served on the boards of Havel, SEBI, the National Stock Exchange. He has chaired various committees. Two of the more notable ones that I will share here is, of course, the SEBI Primary Markets Advisory Committee and the FICCI Skills Committee and Higher Education Committee. And perhaps most importantly, he's a founder trustee of Akshay Patra Foundation, a foundation that has been responsible for galvanizing and for executing massive scale midday meal programs for children across the country. Now, in the past few years, Mr. Pai has focused his energies equally on the startup and venture capital ecosystem, mentoring and advising scores of startups and founders via Aaron Capital, as well as 314 Capital, which is a venture capital firm based out of Bangalore. He has been a tireless champion of entrepreneurship and digital transformation. And in all of the years that I have interacted with Mr. Pai at CNBC, and now with Let's Venture, where we help founders raise capital, I can only say that Mr. Pai has been one of the most honest and candid sounding boards for founders throughout, right? And that is something which is very, very important, because there will be enough people that will talk at 30,000 feet, and reassure you, but there are few people who will give you the benefit of their candid thinking, and Mr. Pai has always been one of those. And on that note, I will hand over to you, Mr. Pai, to say a few words, and then we will get into an interactive session with all of our students and young management associates and graduates who have joined us today. But over to you, Mr. Pai.
Thank you very much, Saina, and thank you, AIMA, for inviting me to talk to all your big heroes who are going to make the future. I want to talk to you about how the world is changing today. We are in the midst of the digital revolution, a revolution which will shake up the world and change the world forever in a very dramatic manner. To understand the impact of the digital revolution, let us go back a little bit into history. 250 years ago, the Industrial Revolution took place. Till that time, China and India were the largest economies in the world because they had a large skilled population. They were the largest exporters. Then came the age of machines. And the age of machines arrived in Europe and Great Britain because of the capital accumulation by their traders and merchants from trade around the world and the conquest of America, particularly Middle and South America, by the Spanish and the Portuguese, who found great hoards of gold and silver and became rich. That started the age of colonization and domination of Europe. From 1900 to 2000, Europe dominated, became the largest economy in the world. Then the US took over. And the world you see today is the world of the Industrial Revolution, which has created the supply chain. The supply chain to link producers to markets. And in this supply chain, you control raw materials, you control transportation to shipping through pipelines for oil. Then you have retail, wholesale, financial services, everything, because that's the only way to reach consumers and build a global business. And once you're able to do that, it essentially means that you are controlling the flow of global business and you become rich because you control the network. Then 20 years ago, something happened which dramatically changed that, but the impact is being felt now, the rise of the internet. What did the internet do? It created a platform where all people around the world could connect, and it broke the barriers to the expansion of business and networks on the world. It created a network, a synchronous network. Today is synchronous because you and I are talking and listening to each other on this platform, and asynchronous because this can be recorded. You can listen to it any point of time of your choosing, irrespective of the time where you are. So on this platform, millions of people around the world can come together at almost no cost, connected by a cheap wireless device and cheap data plans. To give you some data, out of 7.8 billion people on the planet, about 5.5 billion people have a mobile phone, 5 billion people have the internet connection, and 4.5 billion people have are on social media. And this connection means that you can do e-commerce and get some goods and services. You can do banking, you can do health, you can do education, you can get entertainment, almost everything. And much of the goods that you had in the earlier era has become digital. Music has become fully digital, right? Entertainment has become fully digital. Banking has become fully digital, etc. And the physical world has receded. Now, this is dramatic. But the coronavirus pandemic showed the world how this has changed, because within 15, 20 days of the lockdown around the world, much of the world shifted to the digital media. And you could get all your goods and everything else. And there was lockdown around the world. You couldn't go out and everywhere, but people connected. And India too saw this. And when India saw this, we found in the month of March that, a large number of people, maybe 50, 60% people went digital because India was in the lockdown for 3 or 4 months. We could not go in the streets. We could not buy. We could not go to school. We could not get education. But for many, life went on. And this dramatic change shows that the digital revolution has come with a bang, and the future is going to be digital. And the digital world is driven by many things that have happened over the last 20 years. First is the rise of the internet. Second is the rise of huge computing capacity. Now, computing capacity has grown and the costs have come down. Today, you can get almost unlimited capacity on the cloud. That means you don't have to set up a data center or buy a server. You can just go to AWS or Google or maybe Geo and get your cloud capacity for a small price and almost free in the beginning. So you don't have to bother about creating a technology infrastructure. Then the devices you have become so inexpensive. For example, when I joined Infosys in 1994, a Pentium 4 machine. Pentium 4 has possibly 5% the capacity of your mobile today, cost $2,500. And a CFO negotiated and bought some, 1,000 of them at $2,000. And now you get a good laptop for $500, $600 with a capacity 25, 30% more. And somebody told me yesterday that the new Apple device is going to have more processing capacity than the Cray supercomputer 7 years ago. Can you believe that? So you've got cheap devices. And then the rise of software, everything is becoming software. And that implies that you can use the digital media to control physical devices. And that gives rise to robotics. Robots can do 60% of human activity. And that is going to become much more ubiquitous. So robots are going to do the heavy lifting. And that means today you can see a robot which does a backflip, a robot that can run. You have a robot in MIT which runs like a cheetah at 60 kilometers an hour, a robot pulling a cart and everything else. And robots are autonomous entities which have got software running in them. And what they do is through the camera, they recognize images. The images get processed and the processed images goes into their memory, and which then tells them what to do and how to read it through machine learning. Then the rise of AI and machine learning. Artificial intelligence is an algorithm that can look at predictive patterns and come out and tell you what to do. So you can do predictive analysis based upon pattern recognition, because most of nature and most of human work is all based on pattern and is repeated. Much of the things are repeated. And if you train a machine to recognize images, train a machine to recognize voice, you get what you want. For example, today with facial recognition, the recognition capacity is 98, 99%. That means if you're going anywhere, cameras can pick you up and recognize you and send information where you are. And then if you have voice recognition, you can translate one language to another. You speak in Gujarati and your mobile phone will speak in Malayalam. Gujarati and Malayalam are far apart, and you can do that very easily. Remember that Japanese ad where you go to Japan and you speak in English and out comes Japanese, right? So that is possible today because of technology and huge processing capacity. And you're going to have more and more of that. You're going to get autonomous cars, and you're going to have all these kind of devices come up. And the next point is, the huge education in software. Software has changed everything and created this entire kind of world. So it's going to impact the way you lead your lives, impact your business, impact education, everything. And huge amounts of disruptive capital is coming into the market. Today, the OECD countries have printed more than $25 trillion of currency for stimulus. And now out of $45 trillion of government bonds in the OECD, $20 trillion have got negative interest rates. So the world is awash with liquidity and more currency is getting printed. And this capital is flowing out of the markets to find asset classes. In America today, fixed income classes have got batched up because today, junk bond interest rates have become come to a point which is the lowest ever. And equity has grown up as an asset class. Cryptocurrency has come into being as an asset class. And you have alternate assets like, AIFs coming up all over the world. So a new class of assets is coming up. And what happens to pension plans? What happens to this? And the speed of change is very rapid. Innovation was 36 months. Now it's come to 18 months. And what is happening in India? Well, I think India is undergoing a rapid change. And you are all in India. And you must understand this. Out of 1.38 billion people, we have 1.2 billion mobile connections, 1 billion unique connections, 1 billion, 1 billion bank accounts. And the India stack, which has been created by volunteers in Bangalore, is coming together. India is going through this. And India is building this up on the software industry. Let me give some data before I let Signa take over. The Indian software industry this year is going to export $170 billion of software, more than the oil of the largest oil producer in the world, oil exports of the largest oil producer in the world, Saudi Arabia, for using a little bit of the brain power. It has more than 75,000 companies, employs 5 million people, and has 60% of global outsourcing, and has $200 billion companies. Infi became a $100 billion company just yesterday. It was remarkable. I remember the journey over the last 27 years. And this industry has created a large workforce. Of the top 10 software service companies, the market value in the world, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 2.8 million employees, the top 10, 2 million are Indians. Of the 6 million people in software in America, 1 million are Indians. Add to that 2.5 million working in India for American companies. Out of 8.5 million people working for American companies globally in software, 3.5 million are Indians. 35% of startups, 35% of startup founders in America are Indians. American Indians have created 65 unicorns. And in India, the startup industry has taken off, built on the software and the training. And young entrepreneurs like you who are changing the face of India, changing the face of the world. India has got 55,000 startups, 65 unicorns. Almost every one new unicorn is born every other week in Bangalore now. And it's so amazing being here and seeing the unicorn next street to you. And India, and they employ 1.5 million people. They created value of $350 billion. And the software service industry has created a value of about $400 billion. And then in the last 7 years, from 2014 till 2020, we got $70 billion of capital coming in. This year, we already got about $15 billion of capital coming in, 25 unicorns born this year. End of the year, it could be 35 or 40. And we'll get totally about $25 billion of capital coming in now. And by 2025, India will have 100,000 startups, 150 unicorns, creating $1 trillion of value. And from now till 2025, we're going to get between 150 and $200 billion of capital coming in. Now, this is the world you are going to enter. This is the world you're going to compete. And this is the world you're going to build. It's an extraordinary world. The excitement is palpable. The excitement is in the air. I remember when I went to Dalal Street long ago at the time of the boom, when Harshad Mehta were there, you could walk on Dalal Street near the Bombay Stock Exchange, grab the air in front of you and you could get rupees in your hands. The excitement was so palpable, everybody jumping up and down. Of course, there's a boom that went bust, whatever it is, but innovation is coming up. Every young person is innovative. Every person is doing this. So it is amazing. And that is the world you're going to get into. And now I'll stop here and ask Sina to ask questions or whatever it is.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So what we'll do is let's talk a little bit about some of the themes that you brought up. And meanwhile, the audience is going to key in their questions and I will start, posing their questions directly to you. But before we get there, so you spoke of India's largest IT services companies and their contribution not just to India, but globally. Give us a sense of what you see as their innovation power today versus the startup ecosystem. How is India's traditional IT services companies kept up? And I ask this question because for a lot of young people here, the debate might be, do I join the Infosys, the TCSs of the world, or do I take a plunge and join a unicorn today?
Well, let me explain to the difference. The difference is the difference between commercial banking and investment banking. Commercial banking is about lending money, taking deposits, and living on a spread. It is a services business. And investment banking is about making deals, creating value, selling. It's a product business. That is the difference. The software service companies create software for large corporations. And let me give you some example. There are very few great software product innovators in the world. I'll come to startups later. People like Microsoft, which created Office, on which most of the global business run. People like Oracle, which created database software. People like SAP, which kills enterprise software, etc. There are very few. On the other hand, there are millions of enterprises who want to use that software. Earlier, 25, 30 years ago, these enterprises hired people, trained them, and went to these companies, used the software and asked them to install. Very, very soon, specialists came up in the middle who could take these software products, go and install it, maintain it, and run it for the large enterprises. And they became very, very big today. These are the software service companies who use technology. What are the innovation they bring? The innovation they bring is a global delivery model where people can work 24/7 in different parts of the world on a common platform to do it with great project management skills to execute it very well. The innovation is the templates and the templates and frameworks that they create to implement it. The innovation lies in maintaining this complex software using multi-language legacy system evolved over the last maybe 60 years. You'd be surprised that 60% of software in American companies today go on a language called COBOL. COBOL was created much before any of you were born. In fact, I learned COBOL in the Indian Institute of Science in 1978 on punch cards. I mean, I'm just telling you this to understand how the world has changed. So you won't understand this. So that is a business. So there is service business. They will continue. They'll help make corporations much more profitable. They'll help to make corporations much more efficient. They'll train people, and it's a very different kind of business. And that business will go on. It's like a consulting business. Will McKinsey go out of work? No, McKinsey is consulting, right? They're helping people and earning a fee. Now, what are the startup business? Startups come with products. They come with a product, create an app, and using the app, they connect consumers to markets. And using the app, they give you services, they do everything else. What does Baiju do? Baiju has an app through which you can get education. You click on the app, you get a lot of education, and it becomes one-to-one. It is B2C, business to consumer. It can be B2B2C, like Mowgli's. Mowgli's is in the infrastructure business, is a B2B2C, like Udan, which creates a supply chain, right? And there are other companies like Paytm, which is giving you payments, Razorpay, which is giving you payments, etc. And then there is a Flipkart, which is giving you e-commerce. What does e-commerce do? Now, e-commerce company is an intermediary between the producer and the consumer. Now, if you have a physical shop, you have to have certain amount of display. You got to get the good display. You and I go to the shop and you buy. Now, instead of that, you have a display screen, a portal where millions of goods can be done. And you can see it in the leisure of your home at 12 o'clock in the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, whenever you want. The shop doesn't have to be open because it's 24/7. And the goods are all displayed there. You click on it and then you pay through it electronically and it goes to a physical location, is delivered to you in the next day. So what has happened? The intermediary layer of the physical store has gone away. You have a digital store, but the supply chain of the producer of the goods and storage and delivery still exists. So the interaction between customers has gone away from a physical location to a digital layer. Now that is a product company. And those are what startups are doing, because startups are creating products. That's a different line of business. Now, as far as you are concerned, you must show what is your strength. Are you a big problem solver? Are you a person who can think laterally? Are you a person who knows deep technology? And if you are, and you have been writing software, doing many things, go join a startup. Go join a complex technology, get some expertise, learn Python or whatever it is you learn to do that. But if you don't know software and you want to learn software, join the big companies, Infosys, TCS, or whoever it is. They will train you very well like nobody else. These private companies cannot give you the kind of training. They'll give you the life skills to make a difference in your life. And after 1 or 2 years, if your career progresses, do well, stay there. Otherwise, look around and join and sell yourself to the highest bidder. Please remember that you must look after your own economic interest. Loyalty to a company is very good. But if you get paid well, you are loyal. You're not paid well, you get something outside, you go outside and decide for yourself. But the key message is you must have the problem-solving ability, you must have the passion, energy, and you must have the skills to make a difference, because you're competing with thousands and thousands of people. There are 100 million people every year who are graduating. India alone is graduating 10 million people. 10 million, 1 crore graduates. China is doing 10 million, right? 100 million people possibly are graduating all over the world every year. There's huge competition and everybody is competing together. The barriers to movement of people is coming down because they're all on the internet. Now in the COVID era, work disappeared, work from home. When you say work from home, home can be anywhere. It can be a beach. It can be a mountaintop. It can be your actual house. It can be anywhere. Who cares? Everybody is together on a common platform. So the idea of working in a particular country face-to-face is gone. So I think this is what I think you should do, depending on what you want to do, what you feel your strengths are. But you must have high skills, a problem-solving attitude, high energy, passion, enthusiasm, and the desire within you want to change the world.
So what have you done? You spoke of problem solving, right? And that is something which is a skill that you can keep honing over time. Give us a sense of how you have developed your own problem solving mindset. What are some of the things that you've done over your career that have stood you in good stead, right? As far as creating that muscle of problem solving is concerned.
Sidna, the most important thing for problem solving is to have a curious mind. As a young child, I used to go to the library every weekend and read 2 or 3 books a day. My mother was a school teacher. And we are brought up reading. So I read enormous amount of books on science, on physics, on geography, on history, on everything. Just wanted to read all the books in the library. All right. Then as I grew up, my father was a shareholder in many companies, maybe 10 companies. There's an annual report. I used to read all the annual reports. By the time I was 21, I had 2,000 annual reports. I read all of them, Indian companies, foreign companies. I used to go to shareholders meeting, buy some shares and ask them questions. I used to get my kicks. Okay, so I should decide my annual report, decide my balance sheets, and I should do that. Then I decided I don't want to go to medicine. It is painful. I didn't want to do engineering. I did commerce. Then I became a chartered accountant. And as a chartered accountant, there are many problems to solve in taxation and others, but didn't want to go before a tax officer and wait outside his door. So my friend told me to come to run a financial service company, a high purchase leasing company. I worked there. Then I set about improving regulations, became part of the industry to talk about what has to be done. And then, I used to meet many people, and I used to go to the Infosys AGM to ask Murthy questions. I remember that, from my company, we bought some Infi shares. And one day I was sitting there, I saw the Infi annual report, not a very good annual report because I had not prepared that. And then, I saw the annual report. The AGM was next week. I went there. I saw all the founders sitting down there, very nervous in the suits, and they're giving lunch. Nobody gives lunch in a shareholders meeting. So, I went to the meeting. I asked questions to Murthy and Nandan, and later they met me. I had met them earlier when they were doing a pre-placement IPO before that, when I bought the shares. Then I went to Mumbai. Then I met Nandan, had lunch with him. Then I went to Mumbai for the first analyst meet Infi did in 93 October. Then I asked questions there. And Vallabh Bansali of AIMA was there. He told Murthy, don't answer him, because he is a friend of mine. I asked him very insightful question. He said, it could be sensitive information, don't answer. Then after that, they told me, why don't you come and join? So they invited me. I joined as a consultant in 94. Then, the first thing I did was the consultant. I said, I don't want to be an employee. I was a rebel, anti-establishment rebel. Okay. That's what gives you energy, right? Because remember, we were in college when the emergency was going on, right? We're all rebels. We marched in the street. We went on strikes, all kind of stuff. I mean, it's what young people did those days. I don't know what young people do today. I'm not that young. So after that, I set about making the annual report, and we created an annual report for Infosys, which won all the awards for 10 years. It had high disclosure, economic value added analysis, human resource accounting. It had, other kind of things also in the gap of 7 countries: UK gap, US gap, Japanese gap, German gap, French gap, Indian gap, etc. And we published it, and we created this aura. We are on the front page of Economic Times for the innovation that we brought in financial reporting. And all the things that you see today: quarterly accounting, review of the quarterly accounting, having corporate governance like lead independent directors, a good board, which gives you information, all the information, analyst call, analyst meetings, all the kind of stuff. Then we built campuses. Our campus is extraordinary. People came in, there were food courts, there were cafeteria, there were swimming pool, there were pool tables, and there were auditoriums. There were so many things happening. Everybody loved them, right? And we created all the paraphernalia. We created software. We created the global delivery model where you could work anywhere. We treated people well. We created India's largest stock option plan. In 99, there were $200 millionaires. And the value of the plan today in today's money is 1 lakh crore. Nobody has created so much wealth for employees, because nobody in India used to give stock options to people. We created all of them, and many of them have become entrepreneurs, right? So I did it because you're curious, and we wanted to set standards. Because Murthy told us, we may not be the largest company in the world, but we have to be the best company. So the energy to be the best, to set standards and stand up for India. And remember, then we went to NASDAQ for listing. We announced that we listed in NASDAQ in 1995. We listed in NASDAQ in 1999. We only raised 72 million. We got a book of 3.6 billion. The stock price went up 50% during the roadshow. And then we did a secondary ADR, 350 million, 1 billion, 1.5 billion, all in the United States market. And the US had the toughest standards with the SEC, with oversight. We did all that because we had this passion. That's the innovation. Then I stepped down in 2006 because I said I spent being CFO from 94 to 2006, 12 years. I want others to have, the day in the sun. I was 48. It's not exactly very old, right? So I stepped down. My colleague took over. Then then I told Murthy, I want to leave. He said, no, you come and become HR. I said, HR, those people hate me. Even though I made sure employees had the largest stock option plan, I made sure they got increments higher, I made sure they got employee loans, all the things, they still didn't like me because they said every year they should come and say, give 25% more, 30% more. I said, come on, give a break. We are an economic engine. So I agreed. And I remember the first meeting with my HR team, they all came to my room. They had glum faces. Then asked me, I said, okay, tell me. They said, can we trust you? I said, what? I'm the director for HR, the board member. You're saying, can you trust me? Why? No, you're a CFO. You never gave us what you. Then I said, look, till yesterday, I used to see every person walking into my room as the net present value of a future stream of revenue. as an economic agent. Now I see them as a person who requires empathy, who has to do everything. Then I set about changing HR, changing the structure of HR, creating a role-based model, and I did many innovative things. And I'll give you one example. I'm a data guy. I looked at data, and you'll be very surprised. If you look at attrition, North Indians had 2% higher attrition than South Indians. The reason why TCS has such low attrition is because they hired a lot of people from Chennai. And the people from Chennai and the South are lower aspiration than people from the North. It's a characteristic of the cultures where you come from. You're not one unique country, right? Then I discovered only 55% of women came back to work after having a baby. Then I discovered that women are getting lesser promotion than men. Because why? During the time of pregnancy, it was not considered as work. So we set about changing the rules. We said the period of pregnancy and maternity leave is work. So you cannot discriminate. Second, we said, we'll give you 2 more years to come back to work. You can have the lean on the job. Next, we said you can work from home, and we set up satellite officer where you could come. We gave them some money to go to creches. Then we had a mentor, a senior woman to talk to them because, you have a baby when you're young. The baby requires a lot of care. And a mother's heart is very different from a male's heart. The father will run away, but the mother cannot run away from the small thing, right? So the mother has to take care, feed the baby and everything else. And now the percent of people coming back went up to 85%. 85%. Yeah. Now I think much higher. Then we made sure women got promotion. We made sure the women got the share of promotion. We went to many colleges and hired people. Then we found that the percent of minorities were less. So we went to colleges where there are minorities and increased the number massively. So I restructured the entire HR process and made it applicable from the new model. So a lot of innovative stuff, but setting standards.
Setting standards, sir. Let's move the conversation. You speak to a lot of founders, right? You mentor a lot of young entrepreneurs, folks who are building product companies, like you said, new age companies. What are some of, if you can kind of extrapolate from your conversations with them, what do you think is the muscle that young entrepreneurs still need to build up more of in our country, right? From your experience of conversations with them?
I think they need to have more confidence in their abilities. They're very good technical people. Many of them don't speak properly. They need to have more confidence. Look at Baiju. I remember, Ranjan, my partner in Narayan Capital, where we both are partners, was in Manipal because, he runs the Manipal education. His family runs it, right? So they have a hotel there. They found a furrow there. So he went and said, who is this person? There was Baiju telling all the engineers there how to pass the IIM exam. Because every engineer wants to go to IIM because they think they'll make more money. And there are thousands of people. So he said, I want to meet him. Baiju came, spoke to him and said, he's doing this, blah, blah, blah. Then Ranjan asked him, do you want capital? He said, yes, I'll come back. Then he came back and said, look, I'm going to want capital at 150 crore pre 2012. 150 crores, what are your revenues? 4 crores. And you want at 150 crores? Yeah, I want 50 crores. Then Ranjan said, that's too high. He said, Ranjan, 6 months later, you'll have to invest at 200 crores pre. So he had the chutzpah and the confidence. Based on that, we gave him 9 million at 50 million pre. Today is worth some 16, 20 billion. He had the passion, he had the energy, he had the technical ability, that ideation, he used to teach, could market, he could raise capital. Now, all those things have to come. So first of all, you need that ideas and the ability to execute the idea. And then you need to articulate. And then you need to know how to raise capital. All the unicorns you see are people who have been able to raise subsequent rounds of capital. They got people wanting to invest money. And the people who have not been successful despite having better company, the people who could not raise money. I'll give an example. Taxi for Sure in Bangalore and Ola started the same day. Taxi for Sure had better technology, but Apramaya was very busy running the company and creating technology, whereas Babish went and raised 2 more rounds and raised so much capital. The game was over. Taxi for Sure has to sell. So Indian entrepreneurs should have that ideation, build a team, execute it, passion, and have the ability to raise capital. This is a capital game. Why? You are trying to do in 3 years what normally business does in 10 years. So you need money. And once you get the money and they invest the money, you're far ahead of somebody. And more money comes attracted to you because they want to bank on winners. This is a winners take all game.
All right. But don't you think so when you talk about winners take all, and we're seeing that play out, right? I think in each of the industries, we have 2 or 3 large players, right? And then the sort of innovation stagnates a little bit until then there is an upstart again a few years down the line to shake things up. In that atmosphere, how should founders be thinking of a longer term vision, be thinking about continuously innovating, or then go down the path of, let's pick up Baiju's example, right, of consolidating the market, of being very aggressive with the M&A. But then who disrupts Baiju's?
Sidna, every industry, every period, one winner, two winner comes out and dominates the digital world. Apple is dominating. What happens to all others? Correct? But there'll be a dominant player because they create a very distinct way of doing things. They're innovative, they move fast, and they raise enormous amount of capital. They do it. Why in enterprise software there's only Microsoft? Because Microsoft was first, they captured the market and they became a digital monopoly. See, in the digital world, you can become digital monopolies because the speed of change and the speed of access to market is very, very high. So you got to be very careful. But the important thing is to distinguish yourself by creating innovative software, easy to use software, which attracts more people. Look at TikTok. TikTok has got more downloads than Facebook today. Facebook was innovative 10 years back. Is Facebook innovative now? No. Because like Clayson said, everybody's innovative, then they become establishment, then they get processes, then the tyranny of the process takes over, and the C is becoming innovative. Cisco was such an innovative company. Don't hear of Cisco now, because the routers have all become, electronic virtual routers. The physical routers are going down. Mercedes-Benz has been for 100 years. Tesla is more valuable. Why? New vehicle, new thing, but Tesla produces maybe 1/100th of what, Mercedes-Benz produces, but the value is some 10 times. Why is that? Because they're innovative and money is coming behind them, because disruptive capital follows disruption, and what they do is they buy long into the disruptive players and they sell short to established players and make money both sides. That's the game capital plays all around the world. Now, if you want to succeed, and there are thousands of these innovative startups in this area where the barriers to entry are very less. Okay, barriers to entry, but the barriers to growth are very many. You must be distinct, do something very differently, be innovative, and focus on customer delight, customer satisfaction. Customers must not flock into you in the B2C game. In the B2B game, remove the sore points and make sure that more and more people come. Today, there are 4,500 edtech startups. I mean, maybe 100 will succeed or make some money. Maybe 20 will be the big players. Maybe 5 will be the really big players. And now when you become big like Baichu, you buy competition. Cisco used to buy 250 companies a year. Why? Because anybody's innovative, they go buy them. People are happy to make money, then they kill them or use the innovation. Mostly kill them because they don't want innovation to come up. They want the core group to go up because they're making so much money. So possibly Baiju will buy all this kind of stuff and shut them down, because you can't manage 10 startup businesses. We don't know, but using capital effectively.
All right. A couple of questions that have come in, sir, and I'll pose those to you. From Aldrich Almeida, you spoke about a lot of things, sir, but I want to understand, how do you maintain focus and patience as a young person?
You have to maintain focus and patience as a young person because you have a dream that you want to achieve 1, 2, 3. 24/7, you must breathe, experience, and work to execute that idea. And don't ship the idea, but review the idea every month to see whether the idea is clicking, the idea is growing. And after a period of time, if it doesn't happen, you pivot, you check out why it's not happening and do something else. Don't get stuck to something for a long period of time, and don't go beyond failed ideas, because life is very short. So you have to focus, you have to work on that dream of that 24/7. Your life should be full of that idea, so that passion and energy comes out. But it doesn't work, go elsewhere, doesn't matter. Don't marry the idea, correct?
All right. So do you see enough innovation taking place for Bharat, right? I mean, we discuss this a lot. A lot of the large unicorns today have actually been created for a certain part and certain audience in our country, correct? With the exception of a few. Do you see very large technology companies being built to actually service a customer in India that perhaps can't spare more than a few few odd rupees, few hundred rupees for a product or a service? When will we get there?
Of course, there are 1,250 agri startups. Only 250 got funding. Maybe 20 are very good. They're all not making money, but they're solving a big problem for agriculture, connecting farmers to market,
But when
increase the
will
income by
capital
20%.
chase them, sir, is my question.
Exactly. You see, this is a capital game. This requires capital. That's why we need the government. I've been talking to government, telling them that NABARD should have a 5,000 crore fund for startups. Because you have to do that. Look at Aadhaar. Aadhaar has got 1.2 billion people who got an Aadhaar number, right? And look at what Prime Minister Modi did with the Digital India vision. He has transferred 17 lakh crores by DBT. So there is a market there. Look at UPI. UPI is giving people the power of technology. You know, it is in the private sector, people will focus on getting the addressable market. So they'll go to the top, which has got buying power, then they'll go to the bottom. Why is Twitter coming to India, where they don't make much advertising revenues? Because they get the eyeballs. Why is TikTok happy about India till they're thrown out? Because they get eyeballs. They get advertising from America, the eyeballs from here, they become very big and they dominate the market. They shut out everybody else, correct? So it's beginning to happen. But what we need is capital. See, now, every year, China invests $65 billion a year in startups and AIFs. America, 135 billion. We are only investing 10, 11 billion. This year could be 20, 25 billion. We need more capital. And our Indian capitalists are not investing. Only 10% of the capital invested every year in India is Indian capital. You know the difficulty. You are handling that, right?
All right. One last question, sir, I think is what we have time for, from Anushka. She says that you have been a big inspiration for her, but she wants to know who or what was your inspiration?
You know, there's a good question. I have two great inspirations in my life. Mahatma Gandhi. You'll be very surprised. Mahatma Gandhi, because here was a lone person who came back to India, became one of the poor Indians, dressed like them, who sacrificed his family and everything to get Indians together on a platform. And he made many mistakes. He was very human. He made very many mistakes, but he communicated to people. He was a leader, and he had unbelievable leadership qualities. The power of vision, the power to communicate, the power to create leaders, the power to inspire others, leadership by example, the compassion for the poor, and then ideas, innovation like the Dandi Salt March, and then communication, and the courage to stand up, the courage to pull back when things go wrong, as happened in Chauri Chaura. So he was a very remarkable man who did not want power, but wanted a common good, because he could get everybody together. It led to the freedom for 60% of humanity. So, you know, he's my inspiration as a leader. Then Narayan Murthy. I never met an industry like Narayan Murthy. And Narayan Murthy is the one who got us global respect. A professional, highly educated, went and worked, used a little bit of money to create a great company, sacrificed, had good corporate governance, leadership by example, inspired others, created more leaders around him, shared his wealth with everybody, an intellectual par excellence, and the man who created Infosys, and he told all these people, set standards. I want you to do well, and I want everybody to do well. The largest stock option plan for everybody. All the good things that a man did, and a man of great courage who stood up for everything, and a man of great ethics. You know, Sinha, in India after independence, we have had three great business leaders who create an epoch in their own time. J.R.D. Tata in the first 2 decades of independence, because that's the time when industry was coming up, and Nehru did not let private capital flourish because he suppressed them, but he was there. He was a symbolic of India, and an innovator, started Air India and everything. Then Dhirubhai Ambani, who taught us scale, the largest Indian company he founded, and Mukesh is doing a fantastic job growing that. Dhirubhai Ambani taught India how to build scale, how to dream big, how to get more investors, how to do things. Yes, he broke a few rules while doing that, because, you know, he made sure that India could grow. And then Narayan Murthy in the 90s, a middle class with no capital, grew a global company with the world respected, and restored the world like a colossus. These are the three people. But my time was Narayan Murthy, because I worked with him. I didn't work with Dhirubhai Ambani. I didn't work with JRD. I was too young. And Dhirubhai Ambani was a different planet in Mumbai. I'm a Bengalorean. So for me, Narayan Murthy, these are the two people who inspired me. You know, one is in the social sector, in the human sector, and other in business.
All right. Just before we started this conversation, Sir, Rekha Sethi told us about how some of her young team members are her mentors today. Who is your young mentor? Who is your young inspiration today?
Well, I've got many. You know, I admire Baiju for what he does. I frankly think that Baiju will be the Narayan Murthy of startups. You know, He's an unbelievable guy. I had very few interactions with him, but I admire Baiju. Then I have some other founders whom I admire, like Kunal Shah of Cred, brilliant guy, extremely brilliant. Okay, and Harshil of Razorpay, and then Mowgli's, Mowgli's founder Rahul. So I think I have all these people, and I met a lot of people. Then I think I spend a lot of time. See, as a family, we have put money into 32 funds. We also invested in Less Venture. I worked with Shanti in the early times, and we in Narayan Capital, we had a fund of fund. We got 14 funds. We got 250 companies. They're worth about $500 million today. So we are done very well. And 314 Capital, where both my boys, Pranav and Siddharth, are running the fund. Among the top 5 funds in India, there are 2 of the funds in the top 5 in India over the last 10 years. They've done extremely well. Pranav studied at Stanford, came back, has built venture. Siddharth, a chartered accountant. A very brilliant guy, I must say. I'm so happy with both of them. So I learned from them. And I learned from, I mentored 50 companies every 2 months. I talk to the founders, and I try to restrain myself because, I think I'm very disruptive. You should ask Rekha, how I'm a very aggressive fellow. So I try to restrain myself. So I think, you have to learn from younger people who are very different. The generation in digital entrepreneurs are the mobile first generation. They think very differently from my generation. My generation had constraints. We grew up in a world of constraints. They're growing in a world where there's no constraint because everything is digital. They can easily tell you, I'll get 1 billion people on my platform in 3 years. Could I make the statement? I could not. There was no way I could make the statement. So they think very differently. The more you interact with them, the more you make them your mentors, the more you learn.
All right, sir. I think on that note, we will conclude this conversation. Thank you very, very much for joining us and for sharing your thoughts ever so candidly with all the young participants today. Thank you.
Sinha, I want to check off by telling everybody who is on this show, look, dream big, work hard to achieve your dream, and you'll do extremely well. The world is growing at a rapid pace. There are unbelievable opportunities. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't have self-pity. What you make of your life is what you can do. And you got all the ability, the intellectual capacity, and nobody owes you a living. You got to make it work yourself. And if you have demonic energy, a great vision, great dreams, and work towards it, you'll all succeed. But at the end of it, you must learn that you must be happy. Learn how to be happy.
Thank you very much, sir.